Hey guys, in this episode we're going to discuss the film Green Book based on a true story. We're going to talk about the acting, the storyline, and share our thoughts on an unlikely friendship that forms between two characters. This is episode 97 of the Reel-ists Podcast. Hello, listeners. I'm Donnie.
And I'm Oscar.
And we have our producer, Ruben. Hello, Ruben says. And you are listening to the Reel-ists Podcast.
Whoa.
Just wanted to sing that a little bit. It's been brewing inside me for days upon days, and I just had to get it out.
Weeks upon weeks. Months after month.
Thank you guys so much for listening. If this is your first time, welcome to our podcast. If this is your second through 96th visit, thank you. Or I guess it'd be 97th visit, right?
Yeah, this would be.
Sorry, my math's never been that great.
Save that for the 100th
one. Regardless, thank you guys for checking us out. We really appreciate it. Remember, always you can find us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at
the Reel-ists Pod. Oh, Team Reel-ists? Which one are you going for? I see what you're doing. That you're allowing them to say it because we said it so many times. They probably are like, "Oh, it's Team Reel-ists."
Exactly. That's exactly what I was doing. How'd you know? Yeah, but sorry. I'm feeling a little. Let me tell the listeners. I'm feeling a little under the weather, battling a cold. But the show must go on, right, gentlemen?
Movies must be watched.
Reviews must be put out. Discussions must be had. So. Hence, we are here. But thank you guys for bearing with me. And thank you guys so much for just continuing to support us. We appreciate it. And it's going to be a great episode because we saw a fantastic movie this week based on a true story called Green Book. What? Just really quickly, Oscar, Ruben, did you guys know what a Green Book was before we saw this film? Because I didn't.
I'm sorry. The way you said both of our names together made it sound like it was one person. No, I did not know. Ruben says no.
Okay, so none of us knew what a Green Book was or the Green Book or
no, which was one of my confusing reasons. I was like, why is it called Green Book?
Yeah, and I think
that didn't make sense.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, or at least, yeah, I'd say a lot of people don't know it unless I don't remember learning about that in school. But
I mean, to me, I really thought it was like gonna be one of them wrote a book. And it was a green on top. I didn't think it was a reference to a historical like meaning to it. So.
Right. Well, Oscar, why don't you share us some quick thoughts of what you thought of this film?
Yes, I really enjoyed this movie. This movie definitely had a fun chemistry seeing these two actors together. It's a real life story, so I don't know if it was accurate in terms of how they portrayed these characters or these people, but it was entertaining. I think that they were opposites, and it complemented them well in both need of story and their real life friendship. Because it seemed like it grew after the movie. Like wherever the movie ends, that was not the end of their friendship. Like it went on. So it was really fascinating to see. Very interesting story. The stories that are kind of hard to really witness. When you have these kind of moments back in time that were tough for everyone that was colored and and to have that really be on screen, and it didn't feel like it was heavy on it either. It was kind of like it's there, like you're not being ignorant and not seeing it, but it was kind of more of like how do people continue on with their lives, and to see Don Shirley still have a successful career was nice. And yeah, it was a thoroughly entertaining movie. A lot of funny moments, a lot of moments that I think warmed up the movie more so than anything else. So I really did enjoy this movie all around. The music, I was telling you guys right before we started this episode, and I played right before we started this episode. I really liked that kind of music. That was fun. The score, the piano, all the music that was being played was really nice as well. I don't know the historical accuracy, and I don't know the music that was playing if it was actually if it was Don Shirley's character or not character, if it was Don Shirley's music or if it was just like contemporary, like classical stuff. So I didn't know which is which, but yeah, I was enjoying this movie. It was fun. It was great.
Absolutely. I will share my thoughts before I will read the synopsis. Dr. Don Shirley is a world-class African-American pianist who's about to embark on a concert tour in the Deep South in 1962. In need of a driver and protection, Shirley recruits Tony Lip, a tough-talking bouncer from an Italian-American neighborhood in the Bronx. Despite their differences, the two men soon develop an unexpected bond while confronting racism and danger in an era of segregation.
I do want to say Tony definitely was a standout in this movie, or I guess the actor too. I think we were saying it, but he should be like our uncle.
Uncle Tony.
Uncle Tony.
Yeah, he was cool.
Killing me, Tony.
This movie, man, yeah, it was really, really, really good. I knew it was going to be a good film. It looked like inspirational. It looked like it had some funny moments, enough drama. I think the trailer was really good. Like, it wasn't deceptive and tried to sell you something it wasn't, and it didn't give too much to where I felt like I'd seen the whole entire movie. Like, there was no need to see it, because some trailers do that as well, where it's like, well, I don't need to go see the movie. I already seen the trailer tells me enough.
We just saw a trailer for a movie that we're like...
I'm trying to... Well, maybe I shouldn't say what the movie was, but...
We'll say off screen. But yeah, I know exactly
what you're talking about. There's some trailers where it's like, why are you... I don't even need to go see the movie now.
Yeah.
But the trailer was really well done, so I was intrigued to see it, and I walked away just... I loved it. I thought it was a great film. It was really, really good. Great, and obviously great story, important message. And once again, we don't know how historically accurate it was. But I mean, I would hope that the major chunks of it. I mean, we know there was a Don Shirley and a Tony Lip, and they did become friends, and but just some of the finer details, I'm not so sure about. But I thought it was a well-rounded story, really nicely developed characters. Obviously, the two main characters were, Tony and Don. In one scene they called him Donnie, which I was like, woo woo, representing all the Donnies over here.
Getting back-to-back Donnie.
It's my year. It's my year. The year of the Donnies. We got Donnie Johnson. Is it Johnson, right?
Yes.
In
Creed 2.
In Creed 2. And we got Donnie Shirley in Green Book. So I'm like, we're two for two. We just need one more December film to give us that that triple.
I don't know if you're gonna get that with the remaining movies, unless there's a surprise. But
maybe if we like really search the end credits of every film that comes out in December, maybe someone will be named Donnie.
Or maybe there was already a Donnie. We missed it earlier from one of the other films.
We'll have Ruben check that. I'm just kidding.
Fact check. Characters named Donnie in 2018.
No, but yeah, back to the movie. It was really good. I loved it, and I felt like it was really, really nicely done. And you were saying, Oscar, you really liked Tony, or at least the actor that portrayed him. So we had Viggo Mortensen, who portrayed Tony Lip. Mahershala Ali played Don Shirley. So Viggo Mortensen, I've only seen him in two other things, and one of the things I don't remember him being in there, unfortunately. I'm not gonna lie, but it was G.I. Jane and it was Crimson Tide, and he was like this, he definitely wasn't like his character in this film, so that was nice to see. And I feel like he was just a super overall likable guy, and I kind of think of, when I think of Tony, like the character in this movie, I kind of think of like this childlike characteristic about him. Like, his naivete it's not because he's like closed-minded and he's like has a hatred for like people that aren't his own or anything. It's just, I think he's just in his bubble in the Bronx, in his Italian neighborhood with the people that he knows. And he tells you in the film, he's like, he grew up with this, the same neighborhood his family grew up in. So he's only limited to his immediate surroundings. But it was nice because, he took the job initially because he needed a job, but to be able to, out of that circumstance, be able to basically grow this friendship with someone he would have never even thought about being friends with back in the early 60s was really nice to see. So I think the actor I think he portrayed him really, really beautifully, as did Mahershala Ali. And I saw him in, what was the movie that he won the Oscar for? Moonlight. And that was really nice to see. This was the second film I think I've seen of his. And totally, completely different character from Moonlight, because Moonlight, he was more, like, I think a drug dealer and more like had some more street cred, a little more gangster in that sense. And then in this one, he was very polished, very refined, very well speaking, and obviously an amazing, amazing pianist. So it's like, it was really nice to go from like a movie like Moonlight and then a movie like this, and to see the range of an actor is like really, really impressive.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm sure you felt the same way.
I did. You taking my words now this time.
Why you breaking my balls? So I liked the pace of the film. I really enjoyed too, because it started off, obviously when they're starting this tour. So Don Shirley, he's going on a tour to promote, play his music, and it basically starts from kind of up in New York, and then it goes all the way down to the south. So as we go down further south, we get more into the more racist, more dangerous parts of the South at that time. And I thought that I thought personally it was really nice to start from New York and go down, because obviously, just like the nature of a film, it's like you have to introduce characters, introduce certain things, and then you can dive more into the plot, and then it builds up to this climax, which is when they're down south. So it's like, I've really felt that that it was just done nicely. I don't know, what do you think of the pacing of the film and how the plot played out?
Yeah, I thought the pacing actually worked well, because it wasn't necessarily about I mean, at least to me, it didn't necessarily feel about hitting all the landmarks or, hitting every single stop and watching the development growth. There was kind of more a little bit of highlights of this trip, which is fine, because one, it's already happened, so people already know. Well, if you've done your research, you know the story of it already. But if not, you're getting the best parts of it, because the other parts probably weren't exciting or really needed. So, yeah, I really liked the pacing. I think it worked. They start, their journey soon, and it doesn't take 30 minutes for them to get on the road. It really is like a good 20 minutes where he finally meets, they finally meet each other, and then they're off. So yeah, I really did like the pacing. I liked that the stops were only equivalent to the highlights of the moments that stood out in this particular trip. So whether it was good or bad. So it was a lot of bonding, and I think it worked out well, rather than, it wasn't like the focus wasn't the music in this movie. It was a secondary, or maybe a very small secondary. This movie was more dedicated to the actual friendship and the development that they had from this, which started off as just I'm paying you to do this, to I mean, I can assume that they weren't necessarily doing it for money anymore, that they were just doing it to help each other out. So yeah, it was a really nice pacing. I felt that it didn't rush or it didn't drag. Whiplash, 2000.
I got it. That was a delayed reaction. I was like, Whiplash, but yeah. Over here, were you rushing or were you dragging? Another great movie surrounding music as well. But no, I totally agree with you. The music itself. I will say this: I initially, and it doesn't bother me, but this is just my initial thought when we saw the trailer. I thought that the music was gonna have a little more of, I guess, driving force in the film, because the driving force really was ultimately the bond formed between them, and them basically developing a friendship, and or a work relationship that developed into a friendship ultimately. But I thought that there was going to be a lot more music. Not to say that there was. I mean, there were scenes where we saw Don Shirley and his bass and his cellist, and they were performing, going around doing their tour, and we got moments which were really beautiful and really nice. But I was expecting a little more music, but it's fine. It's, it's not a musical, obviously, and it played a kind of a backseat character because the overall story was really about the relationship and going against the times that they were in 1962, where there was still segregation and that sort of thing. So, but what did you think of the music ultimately? Because I mean, even though it wasn't prominent in the film, I really did like. I really like that they. I don't know if this is true to Don Shirley, but there was when they were driving and Tony was playing popular music from the radio, Aretha Franklin and Little Richie and things like that, and he had no idea who he was, and so he was like, these are your people, Doc. Like, how do you not know these musicians? But I felt like all throughout the film it was nice because they were interweaving, maybe popular music that we may have know about, plus all the music that Don Shirley and his people were playing. So I thought it was nicely balanced. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, no, it definitely had a softness to the music. It almost felt like we were getting snippets of his performance. Were not enough to the point where it's like, okay, I really don't want to see the performance. It was nice to get like either he was in the beginning of it or he was finishing off the songs. It wasn't distracting. I think it was nice. The other touches to like music around this time, I hadn't listened to either. So to me, I was just like, I know the names, but I don't really know the music. So it was all new for a lot of the songs. But yeah, I feel like the classical scores he was playing served also as like the background music. Felt like it was part of the score. So it worked. It definitely worked. It wasn't enough for you to be like, oh, I think I felt like I've watched his full performance, but at the same time, it was like I understood that he played really well, and the audience in real life were appreciating his talent and music. And it wasn't just like it didn't feel fake in that sense. Like it didn't feel like here's someone that we don't even hear the music to and people are applauding for. Like it didn't feel like it was fake. It felt like it was genuine talent that people were appreciating.
Right. Absolutely. Another thing I wanted to mention which I thought was pretty interesting about the film, is I guess what you would consider the climax of the film, because along this tour, they are encountering different obstacles that they find themselves in, especially as they go deeper into the South. One of the first instances is when Doc Shirley tries to go to a bar by himself and basically is getting beat up in this bar by this group of guys. So Tony has to try to come and basically save his butt. So that was one instance.
Talking just like Tony, saving his butt.
Saving his butt. And then another instance is when he, I guess, gets caught in the shower fooling around with another guy, which, by the way, was like really, really sad, because I think I definitely was not expecting, particularly that scene, because earlier in the film he had said he had a wife, and I know
that's right.
I know that's a thing, like people get married, it doesn't matter, like you can have a wife and still not be into women, but it threw me off because I was initially I was like, well, maybe I wasn't sure about him. It's not like I thought, oh, he's gay, he's straight or whatever. I still don't know what he is to this, what his, I guess, sexual orientation is to this day. But after he said he had a wife, I was like, oh, okay. Like, well, he's not gay then. Like, and then
it was defined, yeah.
Wasn't defined. And then we got to that scene where they were basically trying to arrest him, I'm sure because he was black, but also him fooling around with the guy in the shower was like the extra cherry on the top for those racist police officers. But then he had to, once again, Tony had to come and save his butt again. And then I think that was the only. Oh, and then the kind of third obstacle that they encountered was when they got pulled over by those two racist cops when they were I think they were in Mississippi at the time. Can't remember, but it was a sundown state, I think is what they said.
Yeah.
Which basically means if you're black, you can't be out past the sun being down, which I didn't know that was a thing back then.
Nope.
But I guess it was in certain states, which was insane. So then thankfully for Doc Shirley, he was able to use connections to get himself out of there. But even with all those three things that happened, those were pretty intense moments within the film. But the final climax was interesting because it actually was I feel like a pretty calm scene when they were doing at the show at their final performance. They were just about to finish the tour, and Doc Shirley wanted to eat, and they were not going to let him eat at the restaurant, although he was the guest of honor and was supposed to be performing that night. And he basically said, if I don't eat here, I will not be playing tonight. Which was like insane to me, because I'm like, how can you guys, you're like hosting this whole thing because of him and his talents, and he's your guest of honor, and you allow him to park his car right in front, so everyone knows, but they're not allowing him to eat at the restaurant. I just thought that was
right.
So
that image and that reputation that they have to uphold. Yeah. Very, very disappointing.
Yeah. It was just like crazy. But it was a really satisfying scene because ultimately Tony was the one who had the control to say either Doc Shirley play, like, let's just play and let's get our money, or no, let's leave. And he basically said, let's get out of here. And he knew he wasn't going to get paid. He knew that they weren't going to get the rest of their money, but they were taking a stance on something and standing up for what was right. And it was really, I really, really, really loved that scene. And even though, I feel like, I don't know, would you consider, I feel like that, to me, in my opinion, I felt like that was like the climax of that movie.
Well, it was the turning point. It was the moment that you realized that this wasn't a job for Tony much anymore. Yes, he was doing a job, but he didn't see this as a job. He saw this more as someone he cares about now, and he wouldn't want someone he cares about to be mistreated or, be dismissed like that. So he says it all the time. He was like, I don't know how he handles like all this kind of hatred, and when he goes to these places, and yet they want to listen to him. So he kind of was growing that sense of like, I wouldn't do this, and I wouldn't want you to go through this anymore, or you don't have to do this anymore kind of mindset. So yeah, no, it was definitely that turning point. It was the moment where you kind of solidified their friendship, that it wasn't about, I'm just doing a job, so you better go and perform and get my money. It was more than that.
Yeah, really, really touching. Yeah, it was just such an inspirational freaking movie, man. Just made me want to, I don't know.
You want to
be a better
pianist?
Definitely made me want to be. Yes, that's for sure. It made me want to like go home, and
you do have a piano in your room.
I'm never gonna be as good as that guy, but I can only aspire to and hope and dream. Who knows? Maybe I get a little better. I can get a little better than average, but I'm not like what he was putting down.
He started young.
Yeah, exactly. Like since he was, a little kid.
Since his mom gave him that piano when he couldn't walk, or I think something like that. What is he saying in the story? Like when he had that moment when he was telling Tony, it was something like that. It's like as soon as he can walk. As soon as he could
walk, his mom, he learned to play piano on a spinet or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Which I don't know what that is. Do you know what a spinet is? Okay.
He's going to do research for it.
We'll look that up. But
he's hard at work at finding the Donnies in 2018.
But speaking of piano, one of the last scenes in the film, they leave the last performance. They go down to the Orange Bird, which is, a bar for African Americans. They go in and have a good meal. And Doc gets up on the piano and he gets to show his people, the kind of like basically he gets to play for his own audience, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Whereas this whole movie, we see him playing for these rich, hoity-toity white folks, as they would probably say in the film. But he gets to kind of go back and play for his audience, and then gets to play the kind of music that Tony was kind of teaching him about all along. The Little Richie and the Sam Cooke and the Aretha Franklin. Gets to play the kind of bluesy, jazzy music with a band. So that was just, I loved it. I thought it was just great. And you really seen him, like saw him come to life in that scene, like him as playing as a musician, whereas like all his other performances he had to be really serious and making sure he got the right notes, and sometimes even it looked like it was painful to him to have to sit here and play for all these people that viewed him as not human, but in that on stage that's
almost like I want to say not obviously because this term didn't exist, but like a robot. I know robots weren't like any even close to happening, but it was kind of like you go perform. There's no conversation. There's no join us for dinner. It's just you go perform and buy.
Yeah, like you go entertain us. Like
exactly.
That's your job. But yeah, it was just a really satisfying film overall. Did you have a particular scene or anything that stood out?
I mean, there's a few that stood out definitely. Like the one that I think will be to me in my personal mind on repeat is the scene after they got arrested, and and Don Shirley kind of has an identity crisis for a second. I mean, it wasn't an identity crisis. It was just frustration built up. Because he's done a really good job of like keeping calm throughout the entire time
his
and
composure
very
well
and a little slip ups, but for the most part it was he understood his situation. He wasn't like trying to break any barriers. He knew like the game that he had to play, and he was just following along. But at this moment it was frustration that just unleashed, and he goes outside of the car and has that. If he's not black and he's not white enough, who is he kind of message that, he's really not saying. He's like, it's a rhetorical question to Tony, but like that was a very powerful scene. I felt like the moment when he decided to help Tony write the letters, I thought that was another powerful scene of, being able to just show that compassion. It's just like, he didn't have to. It was, you're my, in a way, chauffeur. I don't have to, improve your life. So, but he saw a, an innocence right there in that moment with Tony, and he wanted to make sure that his relationship was going to continue on, and that this being on this job wasn't going to impact it, especially since he called and asked his wife for permission. I thought that was really very nice of him to ask the wife for permission.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of those subtle moments were kind of highlights. There's no particular one that really stood out to me. In the sense, like my favorite scene, I liked a lot of little moments like that, like the Kentucky Fried Chicken moment when they bond over that and they shared, and it was his first Kentucky Fried Chicken for Don Shirley. That was funny.
And it made me want some KFC right
there. I said Popeyes.
Or some chicken. Yeah.
I said Popeyes right during the movie. But yeah, so those little things like that were really nice and helpful in loving this relationship. Like it like from the beginning, you didn't see anything wrong with these two people. Like they just had separate lives. And there was a little bit of stereotypes that they assumed and things like that. But yeah, it was nice to see that the bond the bond formed. And yeah, they got to know each other and they improved each other's life. It was like they were opposites that worked well together. They were able to be a well-oiled machine. I don't know if that's the expression, but no particular moment though. I want to say that maybe it was like and it's kind of ugly too at the same time. Like those moments that they were in trouble, because those were the most impactful moments. But I don't know if I would say that's my favorite scene. That I would be like, I want to go see this again. I want to see I want to see this uncomfortable situation. But it was the most impactful for those scenes that you described.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. There were so many good moments, sorry, in the movie, and that were impactful. And one of them was when they did get arrested, when they were being held in the jail cell. And he said to Tony, he was basically lecturing him just like what? The moments that I really, really liked were the moments where Doc Shirley was lecturing Tony as if he were like a child. Like, for instance, when Tony stole the rock at the gas station, that was such a parental to child moment, because he was like, I know what you did. And Tony's like, I didn't do anything. And he's like, you put a rock in your pocket. He's like, I just picked up a rock. And he's like, well, why would you pick up a rock, Tony? Because to have it. Like, it was very childlike on Tony's part. And you could just see the frustration building. And I just loved it. I thought it was so good. And then I loved he was pissed when he got out the car. And we thought he put the rock back, but he really didn't. But he got back in the car. He was all mad, and he's like, "If you would like the rock, Tony, I'd be happy to pay for it for you."
It was very parental.
It was just so funny. But there were a lot of those moments. And what I originally was leading with was when they were in the jail cell, and he after Tony had punched the cop, he basically said, "Was it worth it?" And he said, "You never win with violence. You only win when you maintain your dignity." And that was like that was like a truth bomb that just dropped.
There goes that impactful.
Very, very, very like Dr. King like it very profound.
Yeah.
So I just loved it. I loved it. It gave me chills. And that kind of identity crisis moment, and I'm not black enough, I'm not white enough, I'm not man enough. That was you just felt so empathetic for him in that moment. I felt really, really bad for him when he said that. My eyes started welting up because he must have just felt so lonely and so
lonely. Yeah.
Like, where do I fit in?
No family. His brother has lost contact. So
yeah,
definitely was a big impact. And by the way, everyone, this is a spoiler discussion. I just remembered that.
Yeah. I always forget to say that. But yeah, so I totally agree with what you said. And it's not like one scene that was like a scene stealer. But all these moments that were dramatic in nature and element, and some of them hard to watch and evoked a sad emotion or an angry emotion or disapproving emotion, but they were the most impactful as an audience member to watch, and just added to the depth of the story even more. So a lot of great moments, and obviously seeing him play the piano, if that was really Mahershala Ali playing the piano, whoever it was playing. I was trying to figure it out before the episode. I found something. I know he did learn piano, and for some of the kind of simpler melodies, that was him playing. I just don't know if it was for like the really complex pieces, if that was him. But it very well could have been. I don't want to take anything away from him. So if it was, kudos to Mahershala Ali. You did amazing, and Viggo Mortensen did amazing. In my opinion, I think they should both be nominated for awards. For acting, I think the acting was superb. So that's why I'm gonna give it.
Perfect segue.
We're getting to our real scores. Oscar, what are you gonna give this film?
I want to put this disclaimer because I feel like it's important. I cannot judge this movie by accuracy, so this score is the movie itself.
That's fair.
The entertainment of the movie. Mm-hmm. Whether what's true or not, I mean, if I find out some of the things were not true in the same way, like First Man, we found afterwards some things were different. It doesn't change the score of the movie because it's going by what was presented to us. But yeah, this one actually is going to be a solid 5 out of 5.
Oh my god!
It has a lot of great things about this movie, and I can't really pinpoint flaws of it. It's a really nice story. Like, it's a nice story of friendships during this time. It was really, really good in terms of just seeing how this played out and seeing that there were some ugliness in life in this time, but that didn't stop your dream of playing the piano in some cases, or bonding with those that unexpectedly, because you wouldn't think these two are going to ever be friends because they just have complete different lifestyles. So it was just nice to really see that play out. And yeah, the characters in themselves, if you still put them separate, there's a lot of interest in them. Mm-hmm. I mean, and they were real life people, so I can assume that there was a lot of things to draw from. But yeah, really nice. As we said, the pacing was great. A lot of great visuals. I remember like the scene towards the end when they got pulled over by the cop in the snow. Mm-hmm. It was a really beautiful like outside. The lighting was really nice. It was coming from one single lamp, street lamp, but it was really, really well done all around. Solid movie, great movie, and I really can't think of much negative things to say about it. So yeah, I would definitely say it's gonna get talked for a lot of nominations, and I look forward to Thursday or December 6th to really being able to pull through and see some of those nominations for Green Book.
Yeah. All right. Well, there it is. That's great. I'm exactly right there with you. I give it a 5 out of 5. Amazing movie. It was such a it was so satisfying to walk away, like, and just to see this friendship just build and grow, and in a time where it was not, likely for that to happen. I mean, we're headed there for sure, but I mean, even with Tony's family in the beginning, with the two African American plumbers at the house, they were, very, very racial. But he still chose to basically go against that and to really get to know someone for who they are on the inside. And it was just, man, it was beautiful. No, but it was great. The pacing was great. The plot points were perfectly peppered throughout. The acting was superb. And in Donnie's book, I think that they both should be nominated for Academy Awards. I felt like the acting was so good. So good. So I hope that they get some love from the Academy. I would bet money that they're for sure going to get nominations for Golden Globes, but I hope for the acting they do get it for the Academy as well, because I thought it was phenomenal. It was a great movie. Great lessons. You got to see two characters grow, in their own personal way too. Not just look at the friendship grow, but them as individuals, as people grow and learn from each other. And man, 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. Ruben, do you want to throw your real score in? You don't have to. Let's
reframe the question. Is it a 5 or a 5 or not?
No, I would say 5 out of 5.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
3 for 3.
All right, here we go.
I think
we're onto something, guys.
So I expect Green Book to be in the top 10 list somewhere in there.
Oh yeah.
We'll see.
That's right. We'll see.
It's coming
up.
We got a few more movies. Who knows?
We do, yeah. So
I don't even think we have like 10 movies. Do we have 10 movies left that would technically...
In December?
Yeah. I think there's like maybe 6.
What? I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5...
Technically, yeah. No, I was just saying, because if there was 10, I'd be like, well, there's a possibility these next...
there's a lot of films coming out, so I mean, who knows? But it'll be interesting to see what happens to our top 10 list. But this for sure is going to get up in there somewhere.
Yes.
So listeners, definitely let us know what you guys thought about Green Book. Let us know if you loved it. What was your favorite part or favorite moment? And if you have any real facts about the real life people, Doc Shirley and Tony Lip Vialangana. Is that his last name?
I would say so.
Vialangana. We'll just call him Tony Lip.
Tony Lip. That works.
Tony. Because he didn't want to be called Tony Valley.
No, he did not.
Sure didn't want that. We'll just call him Tony. Hey, Tony. Why are you breaking my balls? Anyways, let us know, guys, what you thought. And as always, we appreciate you guys listening to us. Remember, we're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Team Reelists. Team REELISTS, no dash. You can also leave us comments on YouTube and on iTunes. And you can rate us on iTunes as well.
Perfectly bowed right there.
Thank you very much.
To that end.
I had to redeem myself from the beginning of the episode. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.